My son will inherit everything. His affair baby will receive absolutely nothing. My name is Emil, 26, and I have a 5-year-old son. My ex-husband, 29, cheated on me with his coworker, Bethany, 28. I was 2 months pregnant with our second child when I found out Bethany was going to have his child. I miscarried. My ex left the house to be with her. It's been 2 years since it was born. My mother-in-law has been supportive of me and has nothing to do with my ex or his mistress and their child, up until a few months ago. I adore my in-laws and we're extremely close. My mother-in-law and parents are the best of friends. She loves me and her grandson more than anything. This infuriates my ex-husband's affair partner. My in-laws cut contact with them straight away. Bethany was jealous that her child would never know the love of grandparents. At least her son has a father. This brings us to the problem. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law has been very ill for a while, and so she's updated her will. My ex-husband was an only child, so he would get everything. But now, my son will inherit her house, villa, and money. I will receive a large portion of her money and all of her belongings. Until my son turns 18, it will be in my trust, and if I pass before that, my parents will take care of it. The thing is, once they caught wind of her being ill, my ex-husband begged for forgiveness. The mistress started being nice towards her and forced her to be around his baby. She used to start fights with mother-in-law and called her horrible names before. My mother-in-law is bedbound, but she says she wants to leave with a bang, so she'll endure this. I haven't encouraged her to do anything, and this is her choice alone. They want her money, and her son thinks he is still included in the will. He also thinks his child will now be acknowledged by his grandmother and will also receive money. Now, my mother-in-law hasn't actually said she's forgiven them. She despises her son and his mistress for tearing apart our family. She wants to reward those who deserve it and get revenge in one go. The mistress keeps on hinting on how her child will grow up and attend a great college, etc. Money-involved things whenever she's around mother-in-law. Actually, mother-in-law's niece, my cousin by marriage, has overheard her on the phone discussing what wallpaper she wants in the dining room when she moves in and how my mother-in-law has no taste whatsoever. She also mentioned how she'll finally be able to take down pictures of my son when my ex owns the house. Too bad for her, it will belong to my son. No changes will be made until my son becomes 18. It's his grandmother's home and he should be allowed to cherish it in the way she's decorated it. I'm not really allowed to tell anyone, and though this revenge will be satisfying, I'll have to lose my mother-in-law. It's kind of a win-lose situation, and I dread the day when she'll take her last breath. She means a lot to me. I love her. She wants this for her grandson and has said that she cannot rest until she knows her son and his mistress have been punished. She wants this because her childhood was also ruined because of her father and his affair partner. She wants my son to know he was loved and he will always be loved. I hope my son will always value the great woman in his life. I wish she had more time with his grandmother. So she has an edit because apparently some people are angry at her for not asking her mother-in-law to include the affair baby in the will. So this is what she says. As for those who are angry at me for not asking mother-in-law to include my ex's new child, I cannot do anything about that. Yes, I am happy and that's selfish, but I'm going to put myself and my son first. That contributed to my miscarriage and one of the reasons why my son has not had a father for over 2 years. I can't change my mother-in-law's mind about them. I do pity the baby, but it's not up to me to fend for it. It's not my responsibility. I've tried talking to mother-in-law, but she's had her whole childhood ruined because her father had made his affair child his top priority. This is why she wants nothing to do with it or her son. My ex knows that his mom went through so much because of cheaters, yet he decided to do the same to her. He has seen his grandfather favor his aunt and uncle over his mother. If this happened to you, you wouldn't be so happy about sharing yet another thing with the baby. Thank you again for those who have listened to me, and I've read out the nice comments to my mother-in-law, and we've had a great laugh together. The mistress would send me photos of her ultrasound after I miscarried, either to me or my family. In the first envelope, she sent a letter full of the nastiest things about me, my son, and my miscarried baby. She'd even tag me on social media on an account I didn't know about. It was an invitation to her baby shower. She has done plenty of disgusting and hurtful things to me regarding my miscarried baby. The people who are coming at me in the comments would not be as civil as me if anything like that happened to them. Ignoring her child is honestly the best option. I do not want my son to grow up with her son. And to those who are insulting and saying rude things about my dying mother-in-law, you are truly disgusting.
There are things that TikTok convinced me that I had or that I was. First thing, you bitches convinced me that I was fucking pregnant, and I believed it for a good 3 months when I wasn't fucking pregnant. One day I came on this app, and for some reason, I guess I told you guys my boobs got bigger, and I was like, it's so weird, like my boobs have gotten bigger. I just turned 23, and they're growing like so fucking quickly. Every single comment was like, girl, you're pregnant, you're definitely pregnant. And I was like, no, you guys, like I can't be pregnant, like I haven't been fucked in like 6 6 months. Like, I have not been fucked. There's no chance that I could be pregnant. I was like, guys, like, I'm actively getting my period. Like, I'm not fucking preggo, but I was really concerned because my boobs were growing massive. And I was like, I'm not gaining weight. It's just my boobs are just growing so fucking big, right? My comments were filled with like, girl, you can be pregnant and still get your period. Like, go take a pregnancy test. Like, you're definitely pregnant. So then I call Sissy having a mental fucking B. Anytime I have a mental breakdown, like, I just have to call Sissy. Like, Sissy just kind of just, yeah, she's who I go to for my mental breakdowns. Like, Sissy, I'm fucking pregnant. Like, what am I gonna do? She's like, bitch, no one's even touched you in 6 months. How the fuck are you pregnant? I was like, I don't know, but TikTok told me I'm pregnant. She's like, have you been getting your period? I'm like, yeah, but like TikTok also told me I can like be getting my period and be fucking pregnant at the same exact time. They're like, I'm like, that's why TikTok told me my boobs are getting bigger. It's because I'm fucking preggo. She's like, you need to stop believing everything you like are reading on TikTok. I'm like, I fucking cannot. And I'm in my head thinking I'm fucking pregnant and I haven't been touched in 6 months. I'm like pissed. I'm like, God, like I swear to God, I won't fuck losers anymore. Just like, please don't make me pregnant. Like, fucking please. I actually sat and thought about it and I was like, wait, like I have not been fucked in the sense that I could get, like, he hasn't came inside of me. Like, I have not been came inside of since fucking July. So like, if I'm pregnant, I'm having the baby at any fucking minute. So like, that I'm not pregnant. I sat there like, goddamn, that mental breakdown was like so unnecessary because like I just thought I was fucking pregnant for no reason, just because I believe TikTok. Like, when you do have like hundreds of people telling you you're pregnant, you're gonna think you're fucking pregnant. This next thing, I convinced myself that I had parasites. It's the time on TikTok that everyone was like, eat those papaya seeds, girl, like to get rid of your parasites. Like, apparently like everyone had fucking parasites, and my For You page was filled with like the parasite TikTok. So I was like, okay, this is a sign from God above that I have fucking parasites, and like I just need to figure out, because I had like all the symptoms to it, like, and the symptoms were so like generic, like tired, exhausted, sleepy. I'm like, oh my God, I have every single fucking one of those symptoms. I was out here eating papaya seeds like it was my fub. I remember telling my best friend, I was like, yeah, like unfortunately I have a parasite. She's like, did you do a fucking test or anything? I was like, no, like TikTok literally told me I have a parasite. She's like, bitch, you must be so fucking dumb. Stop eating those papaya seeds. Like, you do know how hard it is to get a parasite? And I was like, you don't get it. My best friend, she's a registered dietitian, and she was like walking me through why I don't have fucking parasites. But for a fat minute, I feel like if I didn't talk to her, I probably would have taken myself to the hospital and been like, I have parasites. And they would have been like, bitch, the fuck you don't. You just don't get sleep. This next one sends me because like, no, this is all your guys' fault and I should not have listened, and I'm about to spill some fucking tea. You guys had me convinced this man was my soulmate. It was Mr. Mans, and like if you follow me on Instagram, you saw the entire date like unfold on Instagram or whatever. I made a fucking story about time about this man that like I was like, he's such a good guy, and then he DM'd me and he was like, I'm in town, and I was like, oh my God, like you guys were like, he is your fucking soulmate, shut the fuck up. You know what, maybe this one's my fault a little bit because I feel like as if you guys are my best friends, so I trust everything you fucking say. So I'm like, you're right, like why the fuck would he not be my soulmate? Like shut up, like he's my soulmate. Whatever, I went on the date. As I'm on the date, I'm sitting across from him like, I remember why I ended things with him. I was so fucking bored. I was like, we just do not have like chemistry like that. Like, we literally just don't have chemistry like that. Like, whatever. This is not the guy that I'm currently talking to. This is like Mr. Man's way back. Guy I'm talking to now is green flag. This is Mr. Mans. I literally was like, girl, he's your soulmate. I was getting DMs up the asshole. He's your soulmate. He's your soulmate. So I'm like, you know what? Like, maybe I'm just being a fucking bitch. Maybe he is my soulmate, whatever. We go back to my apartment. And this is probably, like, I honestly should probably, like, stop sharing right now, but I'm not going to. This is my first time being touched since fucking September. It was basically the Virgin fucking Mary at this point. Like, quite literally a virgin. You know, when you haven't been fucked in a while, I feel like you can just, like, go a really long time without having sex and, like, not thinking about it. Like, you just have to get past that 3-month part, and I was like almost at a year of like not having sex, but I was like, oh my God, he like could be my soulmate. We fucked before, like let's fuck again. It was the absolute worst sex of my life, and I'm like, huh, that's why I fucking ended things, because 1, we literally don't have a connection like that. Number 2, the sex is fucking horrible. Guys, I was so mad. I was so fucking mad, and I came back on here the next day and I was respectful. I was fucking nice about it. I was like, guys, I honestly think we're just like better off as friends. Like, yeah, whatever. Cause like whatever. I could have came on here and been like dick whack as fuck. Like, I don't need this. Fuck all of you guys. I hate you all for thinking that he was my soulmate. Whatever. Oh, I was like, we're just like minimum friends. And I'm reading my comments like, she just can't accept a nice guy. Like, she's never gonna find love because she can't accept a nice guy. I wanted to comment back, Rebecca, he doesn't know how to fuck me. Like, why would this man be my soulmate? He doesn't know how to fuck me, but he's my soulmate? Thanks, Rebecca. I just can't accept nice guys. No, he can't fuck me. Anyways, the next thing TikTok convinced me was that like chlorophyll water was gonna make me a better woman. You know what? I don't think chlorophyll water worked for me.
Storytime about my weird cellmate. So a little background information. I was 17 years old and a junior in high school. Yes, I was 17 and I was being charged as an adult. So I was in with a bunch of women. Well, one night after dinner, my cellmates and I are watching true crime shows. Because that's what you do when you're in jail. Watch true crime and CSI and all that shit. Anyway, so we're watching our shows and we see a new girl come in. She's got her blanket packed and we're all being warm and welcoming. And immediately, all of us could sense that something was off with this chick. Immediately, she starts going off about how she has a problem with the TV show we're watching. She did not like the fact that we were watching crime shows. She was like, oh my gosh, you guys really need to turn this off like right now. Low-key thought I was gonna see her on there or some shit. But yeah, she was just being super paranoid and we're sitting there like, girl, we have 10 channels. 7 of them are going to be true crime and 2 of them are the news. Oh, and the other channel was black and white movies and nobody wanted to watch that shit. I asked her if she unalived someone before, because only somebody who unalived somebody would be triggered over us watching true crime, but she completely ignores me. So the first night, something happened with this girl. It was low-key, very, very weird. Me and my other cellmates were like, this girl's weird as hell. Why is she here? And then the next day was the icing on the cake. So it was cleaning day, and we're all cleaning our stuff. And this girl just starts cleaning the weirdest things, like the inside of trash cans and shit that didn't need to be cleaned. And then it started getting creepy. Not weird, creepy. She put a paper towel over the drains because the voices were too loud. And then she would walk around the pod talking about death and carnage. And if you don't know what carnage means, it pretty much just means unaliving a lot of people. So this was super bad vibes, obviously. Now, when you're in jail, of course people are going to ask what you're doing time for. And if you don't say, you're going to come off as sketchy. So we're asking this girl, hey, what are you in for? And she would not give us a straight answer. And we asked her what she was in for and she didn't answer, so we found that weird as heck. So then she went for a visit and we searched through her stuff and found her paperwork. We found out that she was in because she attempted to unalive her husband, in which he got a restraining order. So at this point, we're like, this is weird as hell and she needs to go. Like, she gotta go. So now the entire pod comes together and every single one of us wrote a letter pleading the staff to get this crazy you-know-what out of our pod. We all folded them up into little paper kites and we sent them to the guards. We were ringing the doorbell like crazy and we told them what happened and no questions asked, she was gone.
My husband and son both lied to me. I'm 34 female, my husband is 36 male, and we've been married for 12 years. A few weeks ago, my husband said that he's seen another woman handle situations that he didn't think I would be able to handle. I tried to talk to him about why it bothered me, and he just told me it was a passing comment and I shouldn't take it so seriously. That he had meant to simply compliment her by saying that she was handling so much on her own and he was impressed by it. I told him it was completely unnecessary and hurtful to compare her to me and compliment her. He told me that I was being unreasonable and jealous and that he didn't mean anything by it. After that, he didn't say anything else about it, so I dropped it. Then yesterday, when I came home from work, I saw a pair of women's Fendi sunglasses on our kitchen island, kind of hidden by our fruit bowl. I picked them up and asked my husband whose they were. He looked confused and was like, aren't they yours? And I said no. Our older son, 11, is sitting at the kitchen and goes, oh, those are my friend Allison's. I took them home on accident. I was immediately suspicious. These are very expensive sunglasses. I know Allison's mother, and she doesn't seem like the type to let her child bring something worth that much money into school. My son kept insisting that they were hers. He had just taken them home accidentally on the bus, and that he'd return them to her tomorrow. But I said no, and that I'd return them to her mother in person so I could make sure they got home safely. When I spoke to Allison's mother, she confirmed that they weren't Allison's, and that neither she nor her daughter owned sunglasses like that. When I told my son and my husband, they both feigned ignorance. My son went from saying that he could have sworn they were Allison's to, well, maybe not. Maybe I don't know whose they are. And then my husband said that he does remember taking the sunglasses out of our son's backpack when he was getting out his lunch stuff. My younger son, 9, just came home and recognized those sunglasses. They're Noelle's, the woman that my husband helps out sometimes. The one who he told me to not be upset over comparing me to her. I'm going to confront him when he gets home. I feel as though I'm going to immediately burst into tears. Can someone please give me advice on what to say? And also advice in general, please? When my husband got home, he admitted that they were Noelle's. She's been over there while I was at work. My husband didn't realize that they were hers. He thought they were mine, which is why he didn't move them. My older son realized who they were immediately, which is why he lied about them. He knew I was about to find it all out and was trying to cover. My younger son recognized them because apparently they've gone out with Noelle to numerous places on my husband's days off while I was at work. I don't know what he told my older son, but he told my youngest son not to tell me about Noelle and her son hanging out with him because I would feel bad about being left out because I was at work. I returned the glasses to Noelle, who seemed horrified. She was under the assumption that I knew about their hangouts. I asked her why did she think that I would be okay with this. She looked really confused and told me why would I care if we were separated anyway. I told her that we were absolutely not separated. We were very much still together. Apparently, my husband had told her that we had not been together except for cohabiting and co-parenting for months now. I confronted my husband with this information and he didn't deny it. He apologized but said that he had developed feelings for Noelle but didn't want to risk our marriage until he knew if they were true feelings or just attraction. He left the house. Noelle wants nothing to do with him because now she knows the truth. He lied to her as well, and she's furious. I'm speaking to a lawyer today. I'm not going to speak to him again except through lawyers, since I don't have anything else to say to him.
Am I wrong for deciding not to attend a wedding? I feel like I'm eating crazy pills because the situation feels surreal, but it's actually happening. And I'd like a perspective on it. Real names change for privacy purposes. I've had a friend, Clara. Is it Clara or Clara? I'm gonna go Clara. I've had a friend, Clara, and we've been close since we met. She is struggling with some mental health issues, and I've always been there for her and helped her out where I can. We also share a lot of our personal lives and stories with each other. Early last year, I met a guy, let's call him Brad. Brad was quite alright, and we hit it off as we had a few common topics we shared. Making new friends was always a good thing, and I wanted to introduce him into my circle of friends too. Unfortunately, Brad and Clara got into an extremely heated argument. It was something completely dumb to me. Something about whether a gun would defend you if the attacker had a knife or sword, but had the element of surprise. It escalated so bad that they were calling each other terrible names, and I was shocked since I had never seen either of them act this way before. They parted on extremely bad terms despite my best attempt at brokering the peace. Over the next couple of days, I tried to talk to Clara and get them to make up, but she was adamant about the situation being final and even gave me an ultimatum. Either I break off all contact with him or she will break off contact with me. I gave her another 2 days to cool off, but there was no change. I valued her and knew her longer, so I reluctantly chose her. I was candid with Brad, explained the situation, that I had nothing against him. She does this often when her mental state worsens and shuts herself in for some time. I sent a few messages to check on her well-being, but didn't get a reply. This time was much longer than previously, but I thought nothing of it, having given her the option to come back whenever she was ready. 2 weeks ago, she returned after several months and announced her engagement to Brad. 2 weeks ago, she returned after several months and announced her engagement to Brad, then invited me to her wedding. After getting over my shock, I asked her why they were together. She said he was there for her when he went through a tough time and he was her world. Ugh, shady friend, I hate this so much. I turned down her invitation and said I would not like to attend. She got upset and said that I should put my differences with him aside. I said I had no differences with him, it was her I had an issue with. She told me to cut him out, then went and got engaged to him. I feel like I was made to be the fool. Since then, her friends have been hounding me, saying I should get over myself and stop being jealous, and that I was never in a relationship with Brad in the first place. I feel like this isn't about Brad at all, but everyone seems to disagree. So, am I the asshole for turning it down?
Who's the dumbest person you've ever met? It's not uncommon as a teacher to have students who are a bit behind the curve in certain aspects, but 99.99999% of the time they are keen on something. They might not understand how to identify a noun or what the theme is, but they somehow know how to make a mean plate of nachos. You learn pretty quick to not judge fish for their tree climbing ability, you know? I thought this was the rule when I was teaching until I met Kevin. Kevin isn't his real name, but it doesn't matter because he can't spell it anyway. Kevin was a student of mine during my last year of teaching. He came to my classroom with very little to show for his academic past. He had moved a few times and thus was missing a lot of typical test scores that we use to try and ballpark their ability. I thought that's fine. I'll just do some one-on-one with Kevin and see what's up. One-on-one with Kevin was like conversing with someone who'd forgotten everything in a freak, if not impossible, amnesia incident. There was no evidence that he had learned anything past the 2nd grade, and now he was in 9th grade. Flabbergasted, I figured we needed to get more serious with this. If he was going to be in my class, I needed to know why and how. I decided to meet with him, his guidance counselor, his parents, and another teacher to see what was really going on. This is where it all became clear. It was by some incredible fluke that his family hadn't been wiped off the face of the earth years ago. Odds are his entire heritage was based on blind luck and some type of sick divine intervention that saves his family every time a threat presents itself. Kevin was the genetic pinnacle of this null achievement. Even my instructional lead, a woman who could find a redeeming trait in a Balrog, failed to see any reason this kid or his family should be alive today. So here's a list of events that made it abundantly clear that God exists and he's laughing uncontrollably. Kevin frequently forgot when and where class was. On more than one occasion, I had to retrieve him from other classrooms. Kevin ate an entire 24-pack of crayons, puked, and then did it again the next day. This is 9th grade. I have no idea where he got the crayons. Kevin's dad wrote tuition checks and mailed them to me. His English teacher, this was a public school. When I gave it back to Kevin, voided, to give to his dad with a brief note explaining that this is a public school, Kevin got in trouble for trying to spend it at 711 after school. Kevin was removed from the culinary arts program after leaving a cutting board on the gas stove and starting a fire. Twice, Kevin threw his lunch at the school resource officer and tried to run away. He ran into a door and insisted it wasn't him. Kevin stole my phone during class. I called it. It rang. He denied that it was ringing. He didn't say that it wasn't his, not that he did it. No. He denied that the phone was actually ringing. He tried it 3 times before the end of the year. Kevin called the basketball coach a mother-effing bitch during gym. Basketball tryouts were that afternoon. Kevin tried out. It didn't go well. Kevin's mom could never remember which school he went to. She missed several meetings because she drove to other schools, none of which he ever went to. Kevin tased himself in the neck before a football game. Kevin kept a bottle of orange Kool-Aid in his backpack for about 4 months. He thought it would turn into alcohol. He drank it during homeroom and threw up. Kevin says the N-word a lot. Kevin was white. The high school was 84% black. Kevin got beat up a lot. Kevin stole another student's iPhone and tried to sell it back to them. Kevin didn't understand that his grade was dependent on tests, quizzes, homework, classwork, and participation. Kevin finished his first semester with a 3% average. He tried to bribe me with $11. Kevin spit on a girl and said you should get out of those wet clothes. The girl was the Spanish student teacher. Kevin didn't know dogs and cats were different animals. Kevin tried to download adult film onto a computer in the library. At the circulation desk, while he was logged on to the librarian's account, Kevin asked a girl to prom. He was in 9th grade and freshmen don't go to prom, by asking for her phone number and then texting her his address. Kevin got gum in his hair, constantly. Kevin regularly tried to cheat on assignments by knocking the pile over, grabbing one before I had picked them all up, and then writing his name on it wherever there was room, not even on the name line. Kevin had several allergies, but neither his parents nor he could remember what they were. They were very concerned that the holiday party, it's high school, we don't have those, would have peanuts. When they finally got a doctor's note, he was only allergic to amoxicillin. Kevin and his parents took a trip to Nassau. How the duck did they even get airline tickets? And forgot all their luggage at home. I didn't believe him when he told me until I talked to his mom, who told me that first thing when I saw her at the biweekly meeting. Kevin's grandfather apparently died in a chainsaw accident. I can only assume God was looking the other way that day.
Am I the asshole for ruining a proposal? My girlfriend just bought a house and is so excited. She invited a ton of people over for a housewarming. She put so much work into everything. The house looked amazing and the food was delicious. Right after dinner, while my girlfriend was getting dessert, her brother proposed to his girlfriend. I was mad because he hijacked my girlfriend's event that she worked so hard for. Before she could answer, I told him to sit down and quit being so rude and disrespectful to his sister. He was mad, but his girlfriend looked so embarrassed. They ended up leaving. The party was very awkward after that. A lot of people left early. My girlfriend's mom was furious at me because she wanted her son to stop living in sin and I ruined it. My girlfriend said I was sweet but didn't need to do that. Her brother texted me calling me a prick. Was I an asshole for telling them to have some class? Am I the asshole for letting my 4-year-old use all of his money to buy everybody else meals and gifts while we were at Disneyland? I took my kids to Disneyland Paris for a week with 2 of my friends and their kids. My oldest is 4, but he gets a monthly allowance from his dad that he can, in theory, spend on whatever he wants. The allowance was my husband's idea because I told him he was spoiling our son, but I personally don't think this is the best way to teach him about money. While we were there, my son kept wanting to use, quote, his card to pay for things. And even though I tried to explain to him that his money would run out, he kept insisting and saying it was okay. When his money ran out, he told my husband over FaceTime because he couldn't get the toy he wanted. My husband was really upset that I had let him use all of his money on other people, especially since he spent it on food. He told me that wasn't what his allowance was for and didn't want to listen when I told him he was the one who said our son could use the money on whatever he wanted. Right. He told me he was going to put more money on the card and was insisting I let our son buy the things he wanted and got angry when I pointed out giving him more money was defying the whole point, especially since I was planning to go back and get him the toy anyways. Am I the asshole?
A man was walking around in the streets with my decapitated head. I am Mona Haydari. I was born in the September 24, 2004. When I was 12, I was forced to marry my first cousin, a man by the name of Sajjad. The legal age of marriage in Iran is actually 13 years old, but my own dad gave consent to it, and I was married away. I was constantly beaten by Sajjad. I even went to my parents and begged them to let me divorce Sajjad, but they did not approve. By the age of 14, I was already pregnant, but still the beatings continued. When I was 17 years old, I met a man online named Ali. I had told him about my story, and told him everything about my occasional beatings and my husband. With the help of Ali, I moved to Turkey and lived with him for a few months. My dad started looking for me everywhere and in the end contacted Interpol and eventually found me. When they found me, they tried to convince me to come to Iran. They promised me that I would be safe upon return. In the end, they finally convinced me by saying they would take me to the police station, which was all a lie. My ex-husband Sajjad caught word about that I had returned and started looking for me. En route to the police station, I was stopped by a car. From the car, two men kidnapped me and took me to a room. This was Sajjad and his brother. They brought a big knife and decapitated my head. After they were done with fully cutting off my head, they walked around in the streets with my decapitated head, and was shortly caught by police. Sajjad and his brother was facing the death sentence, since my dad said he would never forgive them. But my dad lied. Sajjad said Ollie had sent pictures of himself and me to humiliate him. When my dad heard this, my parents had the option to demand something called qisas. This is part of Iran's Islamic law. The parents could either demand Sajjad being killed, or Sajjad getting a lower sentence. They chose to give the person that murdered me a lower sentence. I was stabbed in the back by my parents, and in the throat by my ex-husband.
People who were born into money, what was it like? I never realized how wealthy my family was until a few years ago. My parents wanted to give me and my brother as normal a life as they could. They raised us as a middle-class family. A house in the suburbs, church on Sundays, clipping coupons to take on our weekly trip to the grocery store. Vacations usually consisted of visiting relatives, though we did go on 2 cruises over the course of my childhood. We hardly ever flew, instead preferring to drive 16 hours to visit family. Whenever we did fly, it was in economy. My dad's family was comfortable and my mom was raised as a farm girl in Idaho. They knew the importance of frugality and instilled those values in my siblings and I. I remember saving up our allowance money to buy something we really wanted, rather than going out and spending it right away. They had a strict budget for our Christmas and birthday presents. If we wanted, we could request the budgets be combined so we got one big gift for Christmas and nothing for our birthday, or vice versa. I felt bad asking them for extra money if I wanted to buy a new shirt or a new book. Even as a teenager, $10 felt like a lot to ask for. Our favorite restaurant was a hole-in-the-wall Mexican place where an entire platter of burritos would run you $7. Ordering something more than $15 just seemed far too pricey to me and my brother, and we'd always ask our parents if it was okay to get something on the menu rather than assume. So when I turned 18 and my parents asked me to come along with them to see how they did their taxes, I tagged along with them to their accountant's office to see what was what. In hindsight, the fact that they had their own accountant really should have been my first clue. It turned out my family is considered part of the 1%. They never spoiled us rotten growing up. We never went hungry and usually got what we wanted for presents, though more expensive things would usually be turned down unless we wanted that to be our one big present for the year. I remember one year in particular where my brother and I both combined our birthday and Christmas presents so we could get a Hogwarts Lego set for the two of us to share, and it's still proudly assembled in the living room. I'm grateful for the life they gave us, especially since the career I've chosen for myself won't see me making very much money. I'm now in college and they give me a monthly budget and it's up to me how to manage that money for food, laundry, transportation, and entertainment. I like to think my parents did a good job raising me and my siblings. I'm very thankful that we've always been able to live comfortably. I don't know if I'll ever find out what living in luxury is like, but I'm fine with that.
Am I the asshole for getting mad and crying when my boyfriend ruined my hair? Throwaway because he might see this, but at this point I'm not really sure I care if he does. I, 18F, black, have been dating my boyfriend, 18M, white, for a year now. We went to the same high school, graduated together, we were best friends pre-relationship, so we've always been pretty close. Ever since I was very young, I've always been a perfectionist when it comes to my appearance, especially my hair. Wigs, blowouts, silk press, braids, you name the hairstyle, I've had it. And all my friends and family members know that I'm very cautious of what people do around my hair when it's fairly new, no touching it, no playing in it, etc. Well, recently, I got a blowout. It was my first blowout in years, and I went to a salon I had never been to before to get it. It costed about $120, and it was worth it. I felt beautiful in my hair. I also paid for my blowout with my own money. This is important for the rest of the story. Fast forward about a day after my trip to the salon, I meet up with my boyfriend so we could hang out. He seemed to really like my hair, and I gave him the usual rundown of what he can and cannot do around it, but I put a lot more emphasis on not playing in it and not getting any liquid near my hair as it can revert it back faster and it would be a waste of money. While I was telling him this, he was joking around about how he didn't think it was that serious, but I brushed it off as he plays around like that, making fun of my perfectionism, a lot as a joke prior to this situation. A few hours later, we're relaxing on the couch, when he goes to get a drink and comes back moments later with a bottled water. He looks extremely suspicious, laughing and giggling while looking at me, but I didn't think anything of it, until he starts coming a lot closer towards me, water open, hovering it over me while laughing and saying things like a little water won't fuck it up, and it's not that serious, chill. While I'm trying to get him away from me, my struggle made me hit his wrist, which made the water spill all over me. Half of it went directly on top of my head, the other half on my clothes and the couch. I immediately jump up and start yelling at him, asking him why he would do that to me while trying to take off my drenched shirt. During this argument, he acts as if he did nothing wrong, and says he didn't think it was a big deal. This set me off, and I run upstairs crying while searching inside of his linen closet for a towel to dry me off. It's been about 3 days since I've been over at his house. He's tried to contact me multiple times, and he has Cash Apped me $150 to get my hair redone. I feel like he doesn't know how he actually made me feel and is trying to save face by sending me money. But on the other hand, I'm starting to think I may have overreacted and that this is all kinda stupid. Am I the asshole?